Buenissimo, buenissimo. So I'm looking at my viewfinder and there's this little box that follows me every time I move. And I'm like, oh. Anywho, que lo que miente. Welcome back to my channel. It's been, I think, like 2 or 3 years. I want to say like at least 2.5 years since I filmed a video in front of my camera. So if I'm looking every which way and if I'm like a little bit long-winded and stuff like that, it's because it's been a long time. It's been a long time coming since I seen your face. And I've been, anyway, it's 5 something in the morning, so ya me canse, and I'm gonna try my best to just get through this. I honestly almost did not do this video. Even though the anniversary of the day I became an emancipated minor is very important to me, I almost didn't do this video because honestly, I've just been like going through it. It's been a long year for me. I'm sure it's been a long year for everybody, honestly. And yeah, I just feel the weight of it all, and I just did not want to sit here and be vulnerable and upload it to YouTube, which has become super commercial or commercialized, and I don't know, it's a different kind of platform. I think that never mind, I'm not going to go into all of that because then this is going to be an even longer video. But yeah, honestly, I had my qualms about doing this, and or is it my reservations? I had my reservations about doing this. But honestly, what made me decide to just go ahead and do it is because I came across a comment earlier today. I totally forgot that I took a screenshot of this comment. This comment is from March 2nd, 2021. So yeah, I think that was the last time that I was on YouTube, like in 2021. Unfortunately, part of the comment is cut off, or like it's out of the frame, but so I can't even say who this comment is by, but it's okay. You know who you are. And the reason I wanted to read this comment is because this video is dedicated to you, okay? You are the reason I decided to get over my own fears and just go ahead and be super transparent and you know, a little bit vulnerable. But this comment is from someone who says, I'm reading from what I have, so it's a little bit cut off, but I'm assuming she says, I've been going through a lot, and then I can see the rest of it. So it says, I've been going through a lot for a 15, I think she means like 15-year-old, from trauma and toxicity to skin conditions and everything else there is for a Black teenage girl to go through. Your page has been my safe space. When I first came across your Emancipation video, I instantly resonated with you and loved your vibe. Oh, thank you. Thank you. She said, what you say in your videos touches me, and I can feel exactly what you say. I've cried many times watching you because I relate so much, or I just feel for you. My whole life has been so hard, but now that I'm older, I am so much stronger. But looking back, I feel for child me. I didn't have this strength. I didn't have the wisdom I do today. Yeah. I wasn't as spiritually attuned, and even though I have a lot going on, I still persist. Good job. But sometimes I fall down and feel weak and so tired and so ready to heal and be at peace in every way. But thank you, Starlini. I feel like I've been guided to you from the divine, as your videos have helped me so much. Oh. She said, you have such an impact, which is so crazy to think. She said, but that's all. I just wanted to send love and show appreciation. I'm getting my ID in a few days and I'll be able to get a job, and from there I will work towards my plans and goals of emancipation. Oh, I cried earlier when I read that message. Like I said, I totally forgot about that comment, just because it's been a long time, right? But thank you, because that comment, first of all, I hope you got your ID, and I hope that was 3 years ago. So, oh my gosh, you are probably like 18 or 19 now. Well, congratulations. I hope that you're okay, and I hope that you're actually like doing well. If you became an emancipated minor, let me know if you feel like it. I do hope that you listen to this video. It's dedicated to you, and I have so much to say. I even wrote notes in my sketchbook because I have so much to say. So yes, I hope that you enjoy the video. I hope that it's helpful and inspirational and full of good information and advice that you can apply to yourself in your life and to your journey. And yeah, I'm gonna get started because I have so much to say. But yes, thank you so much for that comment. Even though it took me so many years to respond to it and acknowledge it, I'm sorry. I was going through 2021 was a really rough year for me. That's partly why I hopped off YouTube, because no matter what, I have to prioritize my like real life. I have to prioritize job stability and housing security and just stability. That's very important to me, and YouTube does not pay my bills. And yeah, so I have to, it's a hobby for me, so I have to prioritize what's happening in my real life. And things just took a turn for the worse, honestly, in a lot of ways back during 2021. And it's been a rough, it's been a rough 4 years. It's been a rough time in a lot of ways. So anywho, thank you. Thank you. Even though I took a long time to acknowledge it, I apologize. But thank you so much for taking the time to let me know that you appreciate. I'm sorry, my back is so itchy. Thank you for letting me know that you appreciate my content. Thank you. It's actually so motivating to keep sharing, because, you know, it's a bit uncomfortable to be vulnerable and to be just so transparent. I'm naturally transparent, but it's uncomfortable to be transparent on a platform where like anyone, literally anyone in the world, can access all of that vulnerability, you know. But knowing that it helps someone, and knowing that someone appreciates it and resonates with what I have to say, gives me a bit of a push and gives me a bit of courage. So thank you again. So anywho, I think the title of this video is something like, or it's going to be something like Emancipated Minor 9-year update, or like Emancipation 9-year anniversary, something along those lines. Because yes, it is the 9-year anniversary. I forgot, I should have led with that. So on December 1st, 2015, 9 years ago, I became an emancipated minor. Wooty woot. And I have to say, I am amazed at the journey that I've had. I'm going to dive into a lot of that with some guided questions, just so that I am working with a flow as I go through what this journey has been like for me. But yes, this year, 2024, I am celebrating my 9-year anniversary of seeking my freedom. Boy, a journey is what it has been. So anywho, the first question is, oh, I may put timestamps to make it like easier for people to like jump around, or I may put like a title on the screen so that you can follow along. But if not, just listen to me. Just listen, go like do something productive, go wash your dishes, go take a shower, something like that. Do some like face masks or something like that, I don't know. But enjoy. This is gonna be long. I may even split it into a part 1, part 2. If you've been on my channel for some time, you already know how I do. I talk. So yes, anywho, getting started with the first question. It is, what caused me to pursue emancipation? And it's just going to be a bit of a recap, because I don't expect any and everyone to know my story. If you're familiar with my poetry collection, you may know like a little bit. And if you have watched some of my other videos about emancipation, then you may know. But for other people who are new to my channel or coming across this video for the first time, you may not know. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a recap. It's going to be long just because I don't really know how to talk about this succinctly. It's been, I've only been like on my own fully like since I was 19. So just 6 years now. And yeah, I still like just don't know how to put things succinctly. So just bear with me. But I have some bullet points to help guide me so that I'm not like all over the place. So yes, what caused me to pursue emancipation? Well, the first thing is that I was pretty much an outcast in my biological family. So there wasn't a feeling of togetherness or belonging that kept me anchored there, or that gave me a desire to be there. In fact, so I'll backtrack actually. So for those of you who do not know, when I was 4 months young, I was placed into a foster home all the way in Miami, Florida. And I was placed in that foster home with one of my biological sisters. I lived in that foster home until I was about 7 years young, and then I was transferred along with that biological sister to our birth parents' custody. all the way in the Midwest, and we weren't told, or from what I recall, we weren't told why. Literally, it all happened so fast. One day, I met my parents, and it wasn't clear to me at the time that they were my parents, but I knew just from like how everything was arranged that like these people had an interest in my sister and I, because out of all the other foster girls and other children in the home, my sister and I were the only people who had to sit down with these two adults who later on turned out to be my parents. The next time I saw them, I think I only saw my father, and my father, it was when we were in court. So I still didn't know what was going on, but I knew something was changing. I talked to him on the phone for the first time, and he was like, "Do you know who this is?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Oh, this is your daddy." And I was like, "I don't have one of those," because literally I grew up in a matriarchal home. I had my foster mother and then her adult foster, or excuse me, her adult daughter, who she didn't really raise us, she just beat us actually, but she was like our other like parent, if you will. So I literally just didn't have a father, but I was so young that I didn't think that there was anything wrong with that. I wasn't at that point where I was wondering like, oh, like, Ma, where's my dad? Like, I didn't grow up feeling like that. I literally just didn't think anything of it, you know? So anywho, when he told me like, oh, this is your dad, I was like, I don't have one of those. I literally told him that. And yeah, so that happened. And then the next thing I knew, my sister and I were like called upstairs, and we were told that we were going on a trip, and that my foster mother was not coming with us. We were told to go downstairs to our, it wasn't really a room. We didn't have a room. It was just a corner in the basement that the foster girls slept in. So we were told to go down to like our space and to grab certain clothes. We basically packed like the most raggedy clothing and all of our toys and sentimental things and photos. Those things were left behind. Shortly after that, someone came to get us. In the middle of the day, they took us to an office. We were there like all night, and then another man came and he picked us up and he drove us for what seemed like hours through the middle of nowhere. They put us on a plane. They transferred us to these different adults in the airport. It's a whole long story, but yes, that's basically how we got transferred to our birth parents. And then unfortunately for me, at least, that was pretty much the end of my connection, if you will, to my foster family. We spoke, or I got to speak to my foster mom one more time, like around the winter holidays. I think it was on Christmas, if not, then maybe like the day before. My foster mom, she actually sent a box of like all those sentimental things that we weren't allowed to bring with us. I now understand it was probably so that our luggage wouldn't be so heavy, because she sent it all to us. Unfortunately, my biological mother did throw it all away, or have my brother throw it all away, just because I think she just didn't understand I don't think she understood that like it was important for me as a child to still be connected to like that part of my life. Like I spent the first 8 years of my life basically with this woman who was like my mom, literally, and with like my family, and then all of that just kind of got thrown away. And then my birth parents just expected me to like just move on. Like literally the first day that I met my parents in the Midwest, my parents were like so excited to have like their daughters back, and they were rejoicing and talking about how it was going to be so great, and everyone in the church would be so happy to see us. And I'm not gonna lie, I broke down crying. I was like 7. I was a child, so I broke down crying. I was kicking and screaming, not kicking anyone, but I was like in my dad's arms, and so I was just like wailing and I was crying. I kept saying I want my mom. Like it was really traumatic, honestly. And my mom slapped the crap out of me, and she told me, "That's not your mom. I'm your mom. Don't you ever say that again." So yeah, from the very beginning, my parents didn't seem to understand that I had a real connection to that woman, like more than anyone else in the home. There were 8 children, 2 adults in that home. I was so close to my foster mom because literally she's the one who raised me. And yeah, my birth parents just didn't understand that. So that made things very difficult. The abuse from the first day made things very difficult for me. And the abuse at the hands of my mother in particular went on for the entire time that I lived in or under their roof and was in their custody. So that was a driving force that led me to pursue emancipation too. Yeah, so basically there are a few things. Number one, just not feeling like I belonged, and not feeling safe. Like I said, I was abused by my mother, like severely. I'm gonna try not to go into all of that right now, just so I don't break down crying like so early into this video. But yes, I didn't feel safe because of my mother in particular, and the fact that I just never attached to her. I mean, how could you attach to someone who says that they are your parent, but then they like beat you down, like stomp you down like you're, I don't know, an insect on the floor, like you're a rodent passing through, you know? And my father was a sole provider of 10 people. He was always gone. He worked like 2, 3 jobs, or one job like for 12 or 14 hours a day. So I only saw my father when he was sleeping early in the morning and I was getting up and taking care of my younger siblings and heading off to school. So and then when my father wasn't at work, he was just like with his friends. So he was pretty much like unhelpful when it came to keeping me safe and letting his wife, my mother, know not to put her hands on us. Like there were several times where my mother almost beat me to death, and it took for the youngest children, who were the only kids who had the courage, to intervene and scream and let her know like to stop, because I was about to be gone, you know. And the one time when it happened, when I was in 3rd grade and my mom literally stomped me out, like it was just really traumatic. But she like stomped me out to the point where I was on the floor, my head was bleeding, my nose was bleeding, and I was like left unconscious on the floor. I woke up in the bathroom with my sister, and I stayed up until like 2 o'clock in the morning to tell my father. And when I told him, he didn't even look at me. He didn't say anything except for okay. Like okay, as if like, what do you want me to do about that? And I was in 3rd grade when that happened. So you can imagine how I just continued to stay in that house in fear that I was just going to die. Like I literally, one of the things I wrote down is that I truly didn't think that I was going to make it to the age of 18. My mother described how she was going to end my life on several occasions, and like attempted to. Like my mother was just so abusive to me. I think she just really didn't like me. I think that maybe I offended her on day one when I cried out for my foster mom and referred to I referred to her as my mom. And I think maybe she held on to that, or I don't know. I don't really know what would drive a mother to do some of the things that my mother did to me. But she was just very adamant that she just made it very clear that she didn't like me. Like I felt like I was the emotional punching bag in the house. And when it came to my mother, it didn't matter like that I was her child. Like the things that she would do to me, the way she would like beat me until I urinated on myself when I was like 8, 9, 10, 11. Like she didn't care that we were so poor that like my father didn't have money for like me to keep urinating on my clothes because we couldn't go to the freaking laundromat only but like once a month, you know. Like there was no consideration for, I mean, obviously you shouldn't be doing that in the first place, but it's like there was no consideration for how she was inconveniencing me, humiliating me, traumatizing me. Like I just think there was just something missing. Like I don't know. I don't know, but I realized that no one was coming to save me. I used to hold on to the idea that my foster mom would come and get me, but we moved every single year. Like after I guess the lease was up in the apartments that we lived in, we would move, or if someone bought the building and then forced us to leave by a certain time, um, we always we always switched to a new apartment but within the same town. So I just knew that there was no way that my foster mom was going to find me if we kept moving. And it was just awful. Like I was unhappy at home, I was unhappy in school, because even though we kept switching to different parts of the town and I kept going to different schools, the one thing that remained the same is that I was bullied by like the same type of people. So I was just miserable and just in a state of trauma, and I didn't feel safe, I didn't feel happy, and I was ultra terrified and helpless because I was in a state where I don't know anybody. So even if I did think to run away, where was I going to run to? Not to mention on day one, when I did meet my biological parents, I also met a bunch of kids that were apparently my siblings. And my father assigned the 3 younger children to my sisters, and I have like 2 older sisters who were assigned a child. And so literally my father was like, you take that one and you're going to care for that one, and I better not ever hear anything from your mom about you all not obeying her and not taking care of these children. So it really felt like my father retrieved us from the foster home just to make us housekeepers, because that's what my life was like in the home. I would have to stay, the girls would have to stay home from school sometimes just to go do laundry all day, or just to go help my father go grocery shopping. And even though we were expected to excel academically and our brothers did not excel like at all really academically, my father didn't ever think to make them stay home from school. They didn't value their education, clearly. But just because we were girls and my parents are, you know, super foreign, they did not believe, like, they didn't believe in interrupting the education of my siblings. But when it came to us girls, they piled all the responsibilities onto us. So I had no socialization pretty much. I had like no freedom, hardly any liberty, no happiness. We were so poor, so I looked super raggedy. It was just a really poor quality life, and I was just down in the dumps for the longest time. And like I said, I realized that nobody was coming to save me. I had to be the one to save myself. And once I was 12, like in the 7th grade, and I recognized that, that's when I shifted my mindset on like just imagining what life would look like for me when I could do more for myself. I started looking forward to the age of 14 because I learned that in my town, when you're 14, you can go get a worker's permit. So literally the only time I was ever excited about a birthday was when I was going to turn 14, because I could walk to the town hall and apply for a worker's permit. And that's what I did. And actually, that is what ultimately led me to become, or to pursue emancipation. When I was 14, I did get my worker's permit, but unfortunately, because I was so young, they told me, oh, you know, try again later, sweetie. Like, you're just so young, like, try next year, when I went to the job fair in the summer. So I spent the summer after freshman year, or the summer before freshman year, or after, yeah, the summer before freshman year, like, really feeling defeated or something like that. I don't know if it was before or after, but I was just like really, I think it was before freshman year. I was so bummed because I didn't get a job. And so I tried again when I was 15, and fortunately I did get a job. And I was determined to provide for myself because it was such a struggle for my father to provide for, you know, 10 people. When it came to my older sisters, they started working before me. Like, we all went to the same job fair and stuff. And so they were expected, or pretty much forced, to like give a portion of their check to my mother and my father, just because, literally just because that was the standard. I don't know why, because when it came to my older brothers, they didn't even feel responsible to do anything. Like, they were not forced to get a job. It took one of my brothers, quite some time to finally get a job. Like, I think it was like after he was 20 or something. Meanwhile, my sisters and I were like 15, 16, 17, pursuing work. Like, I don't know. I would just think that if I see my father struggling to provide for all these kids, if I see my mother abusing all of us severely, like, I don't know, I would just get a sense of responsibility to get some money and get my own place once I'm able to, and like, I don't know, have my siblings be able to stay with me sometimes, like, just to create a safe haven for them. But my brothers, you know, they were just so privileged, and I think just so inconsiderate of the struggle that it was for us. Like, they did not help at all. I remember the one time that I saw one of my brothers washing a dish. He was like 21, and my father came home, and my father, literally, he walked into the back door of the kitchen. He was like, what the hell you doing, eh? You better go tell one of them girls to go wash their dishes. What's wrong with you, eh? And I'm like, standing there like, oh my gosh, like, this is why This is exactly why these dudes are useless to us. They're useless and unhelpful in a I'm not saying useless as a human being, but useless in a relationship, useless in a household, useless as a parent, because they don't know how to do anything. Meanwhile, look at us girls, us foreign girls in particular. We don't even get to be children and just develop naturally. No, we're forced to be housekeepers. We're already being bombarded with conversations about the kind of woman we have to be and the kind of man we have to prepare for. All this really sick, all this really sick shit that the boys are not ever exposed to. I'm not going to go into it because I'm going to go into too far of a tangent, but that's exactly why, like, in today's society, most of us Gen Z girls are not interested in marriage. We're not interested in motherhood. We're not interested in a life of servitude, especially to these losers who don't know how to do anything and don't feel a responsibility to do anything. Like, they expect you, the girlfriend, to basically come in and be like their mom, be the housekeeper, be all these roles, and then still, for whatever reason, be attracted to them and still want to lay down with them. Ugh, no, please, please. I began to resent my brothers towards the end of my time in that home because they watched us work nonstop. They watched us come home from school and take care of those younger children, bathe them, pack their bags for the next day, prepare them for school, help them with their homework, do all this stuff, and then still have to clean up the house every single day. Otherwise, our father would come home at 1 or 2 in the morning and wake us up and make us clean the whole house again. And then we still have to clean the house every single Saturday. And like, we had no life. Especially the rest of us, like the way my foreign parents are, is like when it comes to the precious firstborn son and the firstborn daughter, they'll be a little bit more lenient, but then for the rest of us, no. So it was just frustrating. But I thought to myself, like, I just have to work, save up some money, and then hopefully by the time I'm 18, if my mother hasn't, harmed me like she said she would, then I'll be able to, like, get out of here. That was the logic. But unfortunately, or no, fortunately for me, things took a different turn. And it's because my parents, when I started working, my parents expected me to give them my entire check. And I was just like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's not happening, because my mother could not help me at all. My mother couldn't even do nothing for herself. So she was just unhelpful to me. But when it came to my father, he never had any money for me. Like, I would ask him for 10 cents. I would ask him for 50 cents. He would say, no, I don't have 50 cents. Okay. Stop asking me for money. Eh? And I'm like, okay. Like, sometimes I'd be like, you have 25 cents, because I was hungry and I just wanted to go to the freaking corner store across the street or up the street or something, or Walgreens up the street, and just get something like a piece of candy or something. And he was just always like, no, I don't have 10 cents. Literally, for my field trips, I had to check the scholarship box, even when a field trip was $1. Like, imagine how humiliating and embarrassing that is, to have the kid next to you see you checking the scholarship box because your family doesn't even have $1. I was just looking around like, why are we all here? Like, why are we here? If you can't even provide for yourself, you should not have any children. You should not have a girlfriend. You should not have a wife. You need to go get your stability, because all you're going to do is bring people into your chaos, and then we're all going to be burdened by your lack of stability. Like, leave us out of it. Leave the children out of it, because we suffer so much. But it's like, I don't know why people don't consider that. Anywho, when I have several videos about some of the things I'm talking about. So if I'm going through this really quickly, is because there's much more to get to, and I'm just trying to give a recap so that the rest of my responses to things make sense. But you can just go to my channel and you can watch the series I have about or I think I have at least a video about leaving my parents' home when I was 15. Like, I explain more of this in that video. But yeah, so basically my parents confronted me. They told me I had 1 more week to come home without a check. Otherwise, they were going to jump me. And earlier that same year, I witnessed my parents jump my sister. By jump, I mean, like, I witnessed my father punch her in her stomach and push her into the window in our room that we shared. And then when she was, like, leaning forward, our mother slapped her in her face, and it was just horrific. Like, that sister was awful to me. Both of my sisters were just awful to me. I did not like her. I don't know why the video just stopped recording, but okay. Anywho, I didn't like my sisters just because they were so awful to me. But they didn't, or my sister didn't deserve that. But it scared me. It showed me that no matter what, my parents, it showed me that they lacked the compassion or empathetic gene that would allow them to see like they're dealing with children, like your children in particular. So that scared me, and just due to how my mother didn't like me and my father never ever hit me, fortunately, but he did threaten to, so I did believe he was capable. And yeah, that was just enough for me. When it came to them telling me that I had to give them my check, I wasn't withholding the money. I wasn't lying to them. I had started later into the season and too late to be added to the payroll. Like, I guess I started in the middle of a pay period, so I had to wait until the next pay period to get a check. So I was being honest about the fact that I didn't get paid yet, but I had no intentions of giving them my whole check. And I just knew that there weren't going to be any negotiations about it, just because when it came to me, no one in the house liked me, no one in the house respected me, no one in the house ever defended me. Like, one of my sisters, the sister from the foster home, did awful things to me. Like, she took a knife, she burned it on the stove, and then she branded the back of my neck with it. And when I grabbed a knife to just, wave it in her face and show her like to stay away from me, my mother just defended her. Whenever my sisters and I would fight or argue, my mother always took my other sister's side. And it was just clear no one liked me. Like, they called me a cracker, a white girl, wannabe white girl, like Ori, all this stuff that didn't make sense, because it's like none of us are Black Americans. Like, all of you listen to K-pop, we watch K-dramas, you listen to J-rock, like, you have a white boyfriend, you have white friends. Like, it was just so strange, because that verbiage didn't even come from like my parents. That came from outside influences, more likely like Black kids at school, and then they would just come home and make fun of me for not being a part of a stereotype that they also didn't even fit in. But I don't know, when it came to me, like, the younger kids were allowed to just call me a cracker. Like, my youngest brother, he said to me, yeah, one time I told him to do something, and he was like, I don't have to listen to you, you cracker. And my oldest sister, she just laughed, and laughter is encouragement. So I took that, it hurt my feelings, and I also took that to mean that, like, she was probably the one feeding him that rhetoric, because where did he learn that from, So no one in the house like cared for me, and I knew no one was going to protect me every time my mother abused me. And so with the idea of both my parents abusing me, I just knew like I had to find a way out. And I told my boss about it. She told me to pack a bag, and she told me to go to town hall and to let them know what was going on, so that if something happened, like I thought something would, then the police in the town would already know my name and the address, and they would be aware that I'm not actually a teen runaway, because the whole town is, or not the whole town, but the township has been alerted to what's going on, basically. And it was a good thing that I did that, because I was right in my inclination that something was about to happen. And my mom confronted me the next time I came home from work, and she told me that she told me to get out, actually. And I told her, if you want me to get out, call the police. She wasn't used to me ever standing up for myself. Every time she hit me with a closed fist, I just took it. Every time that she choked me and, did awful things to me, like beat me until I urinated on myself, I just dealt with it, because the whole time I thought I was protecting my younger siblings. I didn't want them to end up in, shipping containers all over the world. I didn't want them to be trafficked. I didn't want them to be scattered across this nation in different foster homes. I carried that weight with me. I carried that pressure. I sacrificed my whole childhood just to make sure that those children didn't suffer from the trauma and the loss that I was suffering from, mourning like that loss of my foster mother and that time in Miami where my first memories began. I was holding on for as long as I could, but they did not respect me. None of them cared for me. I had no friends in that house. Like I said, no feeling of togetherness or belonging. So it got to the point where I realized like I was gonna die in that house. Even earlier in the year that I left, my mother choked me out, and I literally just laid there. When she was choking me, I laid there and I just closed my eyes and I was just like, girl, do it, please, because yeah, I'm tired. I was like, just do it. But God had other plans for me, I guess, because my little sister and my little brother pulled her off of me. And here I am today, todavía. So yeah, but ultimately I decided to leave when my mother told me to get out, because I said thank you, and I took that as an opportunity to finally be free. Like I no longer had to carry that burden. I no longer had to carry the weight. I no longer had to protect these children who could really give a damn about me in the first place. So I pursued that was the final straw for me. When my parents stood in the way of me being able to provide for myself, knowing how much we struggled, knowing like I was wearing the same clothes for years, humiliated for years. I was wearing the same everything for years. And I was so embarrassed at school. I looked so raggedy. I looked so bad. Like it's a good thing I don't have any pictures from that, or many pictures from that time, because I didn't want to remember it. Like I didn't want to remember how bad things were for me. But yes, I left and I lived with my temporary legal guardian for a year. She was also my employer. And then when that temporary guardianship was up, I wanted to make sure that I couldn't, or I would not have to go back to live with my biological parents. So for that reason, I went to, or I sought out these pro bono lawyers after doing research online to find some near me. And on December 1st, 2015, I left school, my junior year of high school, and I went to the courthouse and I petitioned the court to become an emancipated minor, and fortunately I won. And I do have some videos on my channel about that. I do look a little bit crusty in those videos, but it's what I was working with what I had at the time. But yeah, you can learn a little bit more about what happened if you watch those videos, I mean. Okay, so moving on to the next question. I'm going to go through the rest of these a little bit faster. I know that was a lot of information, but the rest of this will make more sense. So the next question is, how has life improved since your emancipation? Well, honestly, the biggest one, the one that I wrote down, is that